Welcome to the Explainer. So spring is usually this amazing time of celebration, right? Caps, gowns, looking toward a bright horizon. But recently, a totally surprising clash has basically hijacked the usual pomp and circumstance. Picture this. You've got thousands of graduates sitting there, ready to take on the world, and suddenly they find themselves completely at odds with the commencement speakers invited to inspire them. Why? Well, because of one wildly unpopular topic: artificial intelligence. We're seeing a very real, visceral graduation backlash against AI, and today we're going to break down exactly why the newest entrants to the workforce are pushing back so incredibly hard.
To really get this tension, we have to listen to the actual advice being handed down from the stage. Take a look at this quote. A music industry titan stood right there before a crowd of grads and bluntly told them, AI is rewriting production as we sit here, deal with it. Like I said, it's a tool. Just deal with it. That is a highly aggressive, frankly unsympathetic tone to project onto a generation of students who literally just spent 4 years grinding for a degree. They're essentially being told, hey, the rules of the game have completely changed right as you're walking out the door.
So, how are the graduates receiving this blunt advice? Well, definitely not quietly. The immediate, visceral reaction from crowds across different campuses hasn't been, polite applause. Nope, it's been booing and loud jeers. This isn't just a restless crowd waiting for their diplomas. This is an active, vocal protest. It sets up this massive narrative tension between the folks on stage and the generation sitting right there in the audience.
Section 1. The Graduation AI Backlash. A season of tension.
The friction really kicks into high gear when you contrast the students' anger with the sweeping, grandiose language tech executives are using. Look at this quote from the stage: "The rise of artificial intelligence is the next industrial revolution." Now, if you're an executive with a stock portfolio tied to tech growth, that sounds absolutely wheezing, right? Boundless optimism. But imagine hearing that as a 22-year-old. You're probably thinking your entry-level job prospects might just get automated out of existence by that exact same revolution. The disconnect here is just staggering. Section 2, Flashpoint, University of Arizona, center of the controversy. Let's break down the layers of this tension by looking at the University of Arizona as a prime example. We can actually track how this escalated chronologically. Okay, first, the university announced their commencement speaker, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, and almost immediately controversy sparked. Point 2, students launched a petition to actually replace Schmidt as the speaker. Then, point 3, when the big day finally arrived and he took the stage, he was met with loud jeers from the graduating crowd right in the middle of his speech. It was a total breakdown of your traditional, quiet commencement vibe. Now, to accurately report on this, we really need to look at the dual reasons driving that student petition and the backlash that followed. It was twofold. On one hand, you had strong vocal disagreement with his remarks about artificial intelligence. But additionally, as reported by NBC News, the petition was launched in part because Schmidt has been accused of rape and sexual assault by a former girlfriend in a lawsuit. To remain completely impartial here and give you the full context from our sources, it's really important to note Schmidt's stance on the legal matter. The lawsuit in question is currently under arbitration. Furthermore, Schmidt has denied the allegations in the past. NBC News did reach out to him for a comment on the situation, but hadn't heard back at the time of their reporting. So those are the objective facts surrounding the deeply charged atmosphere inside that stadium. And honestly, this just brilliantly illustrates the powder keg that Schmidt stepped into when he finally brought up AI. Despite the petition and the heavy tension in the air, he pressed forward with his message. He told the crowd, "The question is whether you will help shape artificial intelligence we do not know." Now, from his perspective, he was probably offering a grand challenge to the youth, but to a crowd that was already deeply frustrated, it sounded entirely tone-deaf. They felt like he was just completely ignoring their reality, and that is exactly what sparked the loudest boos. The situation pretty much devolved right there on the stage. The jeers grew so incredibly loud that Schmidt had to actually stop his prepared remarks. He pleaded with the rowdy crowd, saying, "If you'd let me make this point, please." I mean, just visualize that awkward, heavy tension for a second. You have a former titan of the tech industry standing in front of thousands of young people, essentially begging them to listen to a vision of the future that they are actively rejecting. Section 3. The Executive Disconnect. Tool versus threat. Look at this stark contrast we've got here. On side A, we have executive optimism. To them, AI is the next industrial revolution, or just a tool. It's all visionary rhetoric. But flip over to side B and look at the student job concerns. For the graduates, the workforce risks far outweigh the benefits, which is leading to some deep feelings of anger.
The executives are looking at efficiency and profit margins, while the students are looking at their mountains of student debt, wondering if the jobs they literally just trained for will even exist in 5 years.
And yet, despite all that anxiety, the message from the top remains incredibly resolute. Take a look at this overarching sentiment being delivered from the podiums. Whatever path you choose, AI will become part of how. AI is going to touch everything. The executives are projecting this sheer inevitability onto the new graduates. They're basically saying, hey, we're building this world and you just have to live in it.
Section 4, Gen Z's AI Dilemma, Usage versus Anger.
But to really understand where the students are coming from, we have to look at the data, which actually reveals a fascinating paradox. Look at that massive slice on the left. According to a recent survey, more than half of Gen Z, over 50%, say they actually use AI regularly. They aren't Luddites hiding from computers, right? They're actively engaging with artificial intelligence in their daily lives and their studies. But honestly, this high usage rate makes their backlash even more complex.
So the crucial point is actually in their sentiment. Despite more than half using it regularly, a full third of Gen Z say the tech makes them feel angry. Almost half say the workforce risks, like stagnant entry-level wages or the total obsolescence of their newly minted degrees, outweigh the benefits. They use the tool, for sure, but they are terrified of the disruption it promises. They see the writing on the wall, and they are genuinely angry about the chaos it threatens to cause to their own futures.
Section 5, A Workforce Wary, the Future Reality.
So what actually happens when these graduates officially enter the job market? Well, we're watching the entry of a workforce deeply wary of what lies ahead. That is the core takeaway here. The corporate world is totally expecting this younger digital native generation to be the enthusiastic champions of AI integration, but instead, they're inheriting a workforce that is deeply skeptical, highly anxious, and frankly, quite angry about the technology they're being forced to adopt.
And that leaves us with one massive, lingering unknown. Think about this. If the tech titans are right, and this truly is the next industrial revolution, but the very newest members of our workforce, the ones who are supposed to build our future, actually fear it and resent it, then who is actually going to shape it? It's a massive disconnect that every company, every executive, and every new employee is going to have to navigate very, very soon. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the data, and I'll catch you next time.